My name is Margaret, but everyone calls me Grandma Maggie. I am speaking from Dallas, Texas, and I am 68 years old. Before I begin this shocking story, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button for more upcoming interesting stories. Tell me in the comments which part of the country you are watching from. I'd love to know. Now let me take you straight into the moment that shook my entire life. I was standing at the counter of a supermarket, just a few minutes before we were supposed to drive to my husband-in-law's family house. I had told my husband to stop so I could buy a cake, something sweet to carry along as a sign of respect. The store wasn't crowded, and everything seemed normal until the cashier, a young man with sharp eyes, suddenly grabbed my hand. His grip was strong and desperate, and then he leaned close to me, whispering words that made my blood turn cold. He said, "Don't go to that house. If you value your life, leave this city now." My heart slammed in my chest. My mouth went dry. I tried to pull back my hand, but his hold was firm for a few seconds before he let me go, pretending like nothing had happened. My husband, who had gone to pick a basket, returned just in time to see me looking pale, but he didn't notice the whisper or the fear in my eyes. I forced a smile, pretending nothing happened, but inside me, my mind was racing. Why would a stranger warn me like that? What did he know about my husband-in-law's family? And why did he look at me as though I was walking straight into a trap? I paid for the cake and walked out of the store quietly, but instead of going out the front door, I slipped through the back exit, my legs trembling. I didn't want my husband to see my panic. From the back door, I found myself in a narrow alleyway, and all I could think about was the cashier's words echoing in my ears. 5 minutes later, as if to calm my nerves, I ended up inside a small video shop at the corner, sitting with strangers and pretending to watch a film. But even while the movie played, my eyes weren't on the screen. My heart kept pounding, and my mind kept screaming the warning over and over again. Don't go to that house. And that was when something happened that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Before I roll you back to how this all began, let me give you the story from the start. That morning had begun peacefully. My husband, Daniel, woke me up early, saying his father's people had invited us over for a family gathering. It wasn't unusual. We visited them sometimes, though I always noticed a strange coldness whenever I stepped into that house. The women looked at me like I didn't belong, and the men always whispered in corners. But Daniel never seemed to notice. He would laugh with them, drink with them, and act like they were his closest family, while I always felt like an outsider. I told myself that maybe they just weren't very welcoming. After all, some in-laws are like that. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something darker was hidden behind those walls. That day, Daniel looked especially eager to get there. He wore his best shirt, sprayed on more perfume than usual, and kept humming as he got ready. I, on the other hand, dragged my feet. My body felt heavy, and my spirit restless. Something about this visit felt wrong. "Why are you looking so dull?" Daniel asked as he buttoned his shirt. "This is family. We must show respect. My father has been asking about you." I forced a smile, not wanting to argue. But before we left, I decided to ask for one stop at the supermarket. That cake was not just for politeness. It was my way of delaying the trip, even if only for a few minutes. Little did I know that my simple decision to buy that cake would uncover a secret I was never supposed to hear. And so there I was standing in that supermarket, when the cashier grabbed my hand and whispered that dreadful warning. His eyes were filled with pity, but also fear, like he knew something terrible was waiting for me. At that moment, I didn't know if I should tell Daniel. If I spoke, he might laugh at me or get angry. But if I stayed silent, I might be walking into danger blind. As I sat in that video shop pretending to watch the film, my hands trembled on my lap. I knew I had two choices. Either ignore the warning and follow Daniel into his family's house, or take the risk of trusting a stranger's whisper. But just as I was about to stand up and return to my husband, something unexpected happened that changed everything. As I sat in that small video shop, pretending to watch the film, my stomach felt twisted in knots. The faces of the actors on the screen blurred into shadows, and their voices sounded like whispers from far away. My mind was too busy replaying the cashier's warning. Don't go to that house. If you value your life, leave this city now. I looked around the dark room. A few young people were laughing at the movie, eating popcorn, their lives carefree. And here I was, shaking in my seat, knowing that I was standing on the edge of something dangerous. After 5 minutes, my courage began to crack. Daniel would be looking for me by now. If he didn't find me in the supermarket, he'd start asking questions. I didn't want him to think I was hiding something from him. So with trembling legs, I stood up and walked out of the shop, the voices of the moviegoers fading behind me. Outside, the air felt heavy, as if the world itself was holding its breath. I wrapped my arms around myself and walked quickly back toward the supermarket. From a distance, I saw Daniel standing by the car, tapping his foot impatiently, his eyes scanning the crowd. "There you are," he shouted as soon as he spotted me. "Where did you go? I've been looking everywhere for you." I forced a smile and held up the cake box. "I just went around to the back. The line was long, and I didn't want to keep you waiting." He squinted at me suspiciously, but didn't ask further questions. He took the cake from my hands, placed it carefully in the back seat, and then opened the car door. "Let's go," he said flatly. As I sat down in the passenger seat, my palms grew sweaty. The closer we drove to his family's house, the louder my heartbeat became. I wanted to tell him about the cashier's warning, but every time I opened my mouth, the words refused to come out. Instead, I pressed my lips together and stared out the window, praying silently. The road narrowed as we entered his father's neighborhood. Tall trees lined the street, their branches leaning over us like watchful eyes. My chest tightened when we finally stopped in front of the large gray house. I had been here many times before, but today the house looked different. The curtains were drawn, the air smelled damp, and the front gate creaked as Daniel pushed it open. I froze in my seat, suddenly remembering the cashier's fearful eyes. "Come on, Maggie," Daniel called. "What are you waiting for?" I forced my feet to move. Step by step, I followed him into the house. The living room was dim, the lights off, though it was only early afternoon. A few of his relatives sat in silence, their faces blank, their eyes following me like shadows. Normally, they would at least greet us coldly, but today they said nothing. Daniel didn't notice. He dropped the cake on the table and greeted everyone cheerfully. But me? My skin prickled with unease. The air felt thick, suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Suddenly, Daniel's father, an old man with a deep scar running across his cheek, spoke. His voice was low and heavy. "You came at the right time." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. The way he looked at me, like I was the reason they had gathered, sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to speak, to ask what he meant, but before I could, one of Daniel's cousins walked in carrying a large wooden box. He placed it in the center of the room, and everyone's eyes turned to me. "What is this?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Daniel's father leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with something dark. "This is why you are here." My knees nearly gave way beneath me. The cashier's warning flashed in my mind louder than ever. "Don't go to that house." And then with a loud crack, the wooden box was opened. The moment the wooden box was opened, my heart nearly stopped. The lid creaked as if it hadn't been touched in years, and a musty smell of old wood and dust filled the room. Everyone leaned forward, their eyes glowing with a strange hunger. I stood frozen, clutching my bag tightly against my chest. My breath came in shallow gasps. The room was silent, too silent, as if the entire house itself was waiting for me to see what was inside. When the cousin pulled the lid all the way back, I forced myself to look. Inside the box lay a bundle of strange objects. Old photographs, black candles, dried herbs, and a necklace made of animal teeth strung together with red thread. But the most terrifying of all was a small faded picture of me. My face, my own face, stared back at me from that box. I staggered backward, my hand flying to my mouth. What is this?" I cried. Daniel frowned, confused. "Father, what's going on? Why is Maggie's picture in there?" But his father didn't answer him. Instead, he fixed his sharp eyes on me, his wrinkled lips curling into a smile that made my blood run cold. "You were chosen long before you married my son," he said slowly, his voice thick with meaning. "This family has waited for this day." The room suddenly erupted in whispers. The women nodded to one another. The men's eyes darted between me and the box. I could feel the air vibrating with something dark and sinister. Daniel looked from me to his father, his face pale with shock. What do you mean, Chosen? What are you talking about? But no one explained. Instead, Daniel's father motioned to the cousin, who took out the necklace of teeth and held it toward me. The firelight caught on the sharp edges of the teeth, making them gleam like tiny daggers. Put it on her, the old man commanded. I shook my head violently. No. Stay away from me. My voice cracked with fear. Daniel stepped forward protectively. Father, this is madness. She's my wife. The old man slammed his hand on the table, making the cake box jump. Do not interfere. If she resists, everything we've worked for will be destroyed. The room erupted into shouting. Some family members urged Daniel to step aside. Others moved closer to me. I could feel the walls pressing in, the air suffocating me. My legs trembled as I tried to back away, but there was nowhere to run. Just when I thought they would force the necklace onto me, something strange happened. The lights flickered violently, the room darkened, and then, a loud knock thundered on the front door. Everyone froze. The whispers stopped. The house went silent again, except for the pounding on the door. Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed like a heartbeat. Daniel's father turned sharply, his face twisting with annoyance. Who could that be? The knocking grew louder, more urgent. And then a voice shouted from outside, low, rough, and chilling. Let her out, or all of you will pay the price. My body went cold. I recognized that voice. It was the cashier from the supermarket. The moment the cashier's voice thundered through the wooden door, the entire room shifted. The once bold relatives who had been closing in on me now looked at one another with fear etched into their faces. Their whispers grew frantic, like a swarm of bees buzzing in the dark. Daniel's father's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. How dare he come here? He muttered under his breath, though his voice trembled slightly. Daniel looked at me, confusion written all over his face. Maggie, do you know that voice? I swallowed hard, my throat dry. It's the cashier from the supermarket. He warned me not to come here. Gasps rippled through the room. The old man slammed the table again, his patience cracking. Silence. He should not even know this house exists. But the knocking grew louder, harder, shaking the very walls of the house. Bam! 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 The relatives exchanged worried glances, and for the first time since I had known them, I saw fear, not arrogance, in their eyes. Whoever this cashier was, they clearly knew him, and they were not happy about it. Open the door! Daniel shouted, his voice breaking the tension. But his father grabbed his arm roughly. No. Do not let him in. He is dangerous. Dangerous? My head spun. How could the same man who whispered a warning to me now be the one they all feared? The knocking stopped suddenly. Silence fell over the house, heavy and chilling. Then a moment later, the doorknob turned slowly, squeaking as if someone was trying to open it from the outside. Everyone froze. Daniel's cousin rushed to the door and threw the bolt lock across quickly, his face pale. But just as his hand left the lock, bang! The door flew open with a force so strong the lock snapped clean off. The cashier stepped inside. His eyes burned with fury, his chest rising and falling heavily as if he had been running. The room erupted into chaos. Some relatives tried to rush at him, but he pulled a small object from his pocket and raised it high. It wasn't a weapon, it was a simple leather-bound book worn and tattered with age. But the sight of it made the family stumble back, retreating like shadows chased by light. Daniel's father hissed, his voice trembling with both rage and fear. You brought that cursed book here? The cashier's gaze swept across the room before landing on me. His voice softened. Maggie, you don't belong here. If you stay, you'll never leave alive. My knees weakened and I gripped the back of a chair for support. My husband looked between me and the cashier, utterly lost. What's going on? Someone explain. Daniel demanded. The cashier took a step closer, ignoring Daniel's father. Your wife has been marked for a ritual. That picture in the box, that necklace, it's not just tradition. They plan to bind her spirit tonight. Gasps filled the air again, but this time from Daniel himself. His face drained of color. He turned to his father, his voice cracking with disbelief. Tell me he's lying. Father, tell me this isn't true. But the old man's silence was louder than any confession. The cashier moved quickly to my side, holding out his hand. You have to leave with me. Now. I looked at Daniel, torn between the man I loved and the stranger who seemed to know secrets even my husband didn't. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. Daniel's father suddenly stood, his eyes blazing. If she takes one step with him, none of us will be safe. Stop them. And before I could even react, two of Daniel's cousins lunged at me. One grabbed my arm, the other blocked the doorway. The cashier shouted, "Run!" But his voice was drowned out as the lights flickered violently again. And then with a deafening crash, the old wooden chandelier above us snapped loose from the ceiling, falling directly toward where I stood. The chandelier came crashing down with a roar, glass shattering and metal twisting as it fell. I screamed, bracing myself for the impact. In that split second I saw my whole life flash before my eyes, my childhood, my wedding day, my children's faces. But just as the chandelier was about to crush me, a strong hand yanked me backward with such force that I stumbled and fell onto the floor. The heavy fixture slammed into the spot where I had been standing, exploding into shards that scattered across the room like daggers. I blinked in shock. The cashier was standing over me, his chest heaving, his grip firm around my wrist. He had pulled me out just in time. The room erupted into chaos. Daniel rushed forward, his voice trembling. "Maggie, are you hurt?" Before I could answer, Daniel's father pointed at the cashier, his voice booming with rage. "He interferes with fate. Seize him." The relatives obeyed instantly, charging toward the cashier. But he moved with surprising speed, pulling me to my feet. "We have to get out now," he shouted. I tried to move, but Daniel blocked us, his eyes darting between his father and the cashier. "Wait. Someone tell me what's happening. What ritual? What fate?" His voice was desperate, breaking apart. The cashier looked him dead in the eyes. "Your family made a pact long ago. Every generation, one woman must be sacrificed to keep their fortune and power alive. This time, they chose your wife." Daniel staggered back, shaking his head. No, that can't be true." He turned to his father, his face pale with horror. "Father, say something." But the old man's silence was answer enough. His expression was cold, his eyes unblinking. My knees trembled beneath me. The whispers I had always felt in this house, the cold stares, the unease in my heart. It all made sense now. I was never truly welcome because I was never meant to stay. I was meant to be taken. Tears stung my eyes. "Daniel, they planned this from the beginning." The cashier pulled at my arm, urging me toward the door, but suddenly two cousins blocked our path. One of them carried a long knife, its blade glinting in the flickering light. "Give her up," the cousin snarled, "or neither of you leave this house alive." My breath caught in my throat. The cashier stepped protectively in front of me, holding up the leather-bound book again. "Touch her, and you break the oath you all swore. You know what happens if that oath is broken." The family hesitated, their eyes flicking nervously to the book. Some even stepped back, whispering in fear. But Daniel's father roared, his patience gone. "Enough of this. Take her." The cousin with the knife lunged forward. I screamed. The cashier pushed me to the side, trying to shield me. But in the struggle, the blade slashed across his arm. Blood splattered across the floor. He winced but didn't falter. With his good hand, he shoved the book into my hands. His eyes burned into mine as he whispered urgently, "Protect this with your life. If they get it, you're finished." Before I could even ask what it meant, he collapsed to his knees, clutching his bleeding arm. The room grew tense. Everyone stared at me now, not at him but at the book I held. And then in one terrifying unison, the family began chanting. Their voices rose and fell like a wave, dark and rhythmic, shaking the walls of the house. Daniel's father pointed directly at me, his eyes glowing with a strange light. "She cannot leave now. She is bound." The chanting grew louder, and I felt the floor vibrate beneath my feet. My hands shook around the book, my heart racing. Daniel stood frozen, torn between his blood family and me. And then I felt it. A cold hand, invisible but heavy, pressing against my chest, squeezing the breath out of me. I dropped to my knees, gasping for air. as the book in my hands began to glow faintly with a strange, golden light. The chanting stopped. The room fell silent. And then the book opened by itself. The book lay open in my trembling hands, its pages glowing with a faint golden light. The air in the room shifted, heavy and tense, as though the house itself was holding its breath. Daniel's relatives stared at it in horror. Some stepped back, shielding their faces as if the light burned their eyes. Daniel's father, however, narrowed his gaze, his voice low and sharp. She should not be holding that book. The pages began to flip on their own, faster and faster, until they stopped on one strange page. The writing wasn't in English. It was in symbols I had never seen before. The letters seemed to move and twist on the page like living things. My eyes widened as the symbols lifted off the paper, floating in the air like glowing embers. I gasped, but I couldn't look away. The letters circled around me, faster and faster, forming a spiral of golden light. I felt warmth spreading through my body, replacing the cold hand that had been choking me moments earlier. I could breathe again. The relatives screamed, their chanting breaking apart. Some dropped to their knees, clutching their heads as though in pain. Daniel shouted over the chaos, his voice hoarse. "Maggie, close it. Close the book." But I couldn't. My fingers were frozen to the leather cover. My eyes locked on the page. The book wasn't just open, it was holding me, binding me to its power. The cashier, still on his knees clutching his bleeding arm, forced out a weak voice. "Don't close it, she's the only one who can use it." His words silenced the room. All eyes turned back to me. The golden symbols glowed brighter, and suddenly, my mind filled with visions. I saw women, many of them, dressed like me, standing in the same house, surrounded by the same family. Their faces were pale with fear, their hands bound. One by one, I saw them led away into darkness, never to return. My stomach twisted. These were the women sacrificed before me. The vision shifted. I saw Daniel's ancestors signing something with their blood, sealing a pact. Their voices echoed in my head. Our wealth for their souls. Our power for their lives. I screamed and tried to drop the book, but it clung to my hands as though glued to my skin. The golden letters suddenly shot outward, striking Daniel's relatives. One by one, they cried out as marks appeared on their foreheads, strange black symbols burning into their skin. They writhed and fell to the floor, groaning in pain. Daniel stood frozen, his eyes wide in horror. What's happening to them? His father staggered forward, fury blazing in his eyes despite the pain. She has awakened the oath. If she reads further, we're finished. He lunged toward me, but the cashier pulled himself up and shoved him back with surprising strength, even with his wounded arm. "Run, Maggie," the cashier shouted. "Take the book and run." I hesitated, torn between fleeing and staying by Daniel's side. But before I could decide, the book flipped another page on its own. The golden glow turned red, dark and fiery. The house shook violently. The floor cracked. A deep rumble echoed from below, as if something monstrous had been awakened under the ground. The relatives screamed in terror. Daniel clutched my arm, his face pale. "Maggie, what did you do?" And then with a roar that shook the walls, the floor split open right beneath us. A dark pit yawned wide, glowing with fire, as if the earth itself had torn apart. I lost my footing, the book still in my hands, as the ground crumbled beneath me. And I was falling straight into the fire. The heat from the pit blasted against my face as I fell, the glowing red flames reaching up like claws ready to drag me into their depths. My scream tore through the air, echoing inside the shaking house. The book in my hands pulsed with light, its pages flapping wildly like wings. But just as I thought the fire would consume me, something cold and strong clamped around my wrist. My fall stopped abruptly, jerking my body so hard I gasped in pain. I looked up. It was Daniel. His face was twisted with fear and determination. His arm stretched out as he held me with all his strength. "I've got you, Maggie. Hold on," he shouted. The pit below roared, sparks leaping upward, burning the edges of my dress. My heart pounded as I clung tightly to the book with one hand and to Daniel with the other. But the floor around us continued to crumble. His feet slid and his grip faltered. His relatives screamed and scattered, some clutching their marked foreheads, others scrambling toward the walls. The cashier, bleeding and weak, staggered toward us, shouting, "Pull her up! Don't let her fall!" Daniel gritted his teeth, pulling with every ounce of strength he had. My arms burned, my chest ached, but slowly, inch by inch, he dragged me upward until I was back on solid ground. I collapsed against him, trembling, the book still glowing fiercely in my hand. But the relief didn't last. The pit didn't close. Instead, it grew wider, swallowing chairs, pieces of the broken chandelier, and part of the table. Flames licked higher, and the sound of something moving deep inside the pit made my blood run cold. It wasn't just fire. It was alive. Daniel's father, despite his pain, staggered toward us, his eyes blazing. "You've doomed us all," he roared. "The oath is broken, and now it will rise." "What will rise?" Daniel demanded, his voice shaking. But the answer came not from his father, but from the pit itself. A deep guttural growl rumbled upward, shaking the entire house. The relatives froze in terror, their chanting forgotten. From the flames, a massive black hand clawed its way up, its fingers long and sharp like knives. The ground shook violently as another hand followed, gripping the edges of the pit. Slowly, a monstrous figure began to pull itself out, its body glowing with fire and shadows. I screamed, clutching Daniel's arm. The cashier's face went pale. "It's too late. The guardian of the pact has been unleashed." The creature's head emerged next, horned, with eyes burning like molten lava, its roar shaking the walls until cracks spread across the ceiling. The relatives fell to their knees, crying and begging, but the monster's fiery gaze locked onto me. And then, in a voice that rumbled like thunder, it spoke. "The chosen must be claimed." The book in my hands glowed brighter, its light clashing with the fire from the creature. My arms trembled as the pages turned again, faster than before, stopping on a new page filled with glowing red symbols. The words rose into the air, wrapping around me like chains. I felt my body stiffen, my breath catching. Daniel shook me desperately. "Maggie, don't let it take you." But I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. The creature raised one massive hand toward me, fire swirling around its palm. And then the book let out a blinding flash of light, so bright that everyone screamed and shielded their eyes. When the light faded, I was no longer standing in the house. I was somewhere else entirely. When the blinding light cleared, I staggered and blinked, my ears ringing. The fiery roar of the monster, the screams of Daniel and his family, the crashing of the collapsing house, all of it was gone. I was no longer in that cursed living room. Instead, I stood barefoot in the middle of a vast, dark forest. The air was heavy with mist, and the trees stretched tall above me, their twisted branches curling like claws. The ground was damp, and the silence was so deep that even my heartbeat sounded too loud. My hand still clutched the book. Its glow had dimmed now, leaving only faint embers in the cracks of its leather cover. My body trembled, not just from fear but from confusion. Where was I? I turned in circles, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The forest seemed endless, no path, no road, no sign of life. Only darkness. Then faintly I heard whispers. At first I thought it was the wind brushing through the trees, but soon the voices grew clearer, weaving through the air like a haunting song. "Chosen, chosen, chosen." My chest tightened. "Who's there?" I called, my voice shaking. The whispers stopped. Then from the fog, shapes began to emerge. Women. Dozens of them. Their faces pale, their dresses old and torn, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. I stumbled back, clutching the book tighter. But the closer they came, the clearer I saw their faces. They were the same women I had seen in the visions, the ones who had been sacrificed by Daniel's family. One of them stepped forward, her eyes hollow but filled with sorrow. Her voice was soft, yet it carried through the forest. "You hold the book. The only key to break the curse." Tears welled in my eyes. "What do you mean? What curse? Why me?" Another woman spoke, her tone sharp. "Because you are the last. If you fail, we remain bound forever. If you succeed, we are free." The women began to circle me, their voices rising in a chant. My skin prickled as their words wrapped around me like invisible threads. I felt the book grow warm in my hands, its pages trembling. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shook violently. A deep rumble spread through the forest, just like in the house. The women stopped chanting and lifted their heads in fear. From the distance, a fiery glow appeared, cutting through the mist. The monstrous guardian had followed me. The women screamed, their ghostly forms scattering into the fog. I stood frozen, my body stiff with terror, as the creature's horned head rose above the trees. Its eyes burned like molten fire, locking on me again. "Chosen," it growled, its voice echoing through the forest. "There is no escape." The book in my hands flared open once more. This time, the glowing symbols didn't rise gently into the air. They shot out violently, striking the trees, burning through the mist. The ground split beneath me again, and I felt myself being pulled, not downward into fire, but upward, as if the sky itself was swallowing me. The last thing I saw before everything turned white was the monster lunging toward me, its fiery hand reaching out, and then I was gone. When my vision cleared, I found myself in a place I could never have imagined. A stone chamber, dimly lit with flickering torches. Strange carvings covered the walls, symbols just like the ones in the book. At the far end of the chamber stood a tall, shadowy figure cloaked in black. It slowly lifted its head, and in a chilling voice it said, "You were never supposed to survive the choosing." The chamber felt colder the moment the cloaked figure spoke. My skin prickled and the sound of its voice seemed to echo inside my bones. I clutched the book tightly against my chest, every instinct telling me to run, but there was nowhere to go. The walls were solid stone, the only door sealed behind me. "You!" I whispered, my voice trembling. "Who are you?" The figure stepped forward slowly, the light from the torches casting its shadow across the floor. Its face was hidden beneath a deep hood, but I could feel its eyes, sharp, unblinking, watching me. "I am the keeper," it said. "The one who guards the oath your husband's bloodline made. The one who decides if you are worthy to live, or to be claimed." My throat tightened. Claimed by what? The keeper lifted a hand, pointing at the book in my arms. "By that which you now carry. The book has chosen you, and so has the curse. But choice comes with a trial. Fail, and your soul will join the others." My knees weakened. The images of the sacrificed women flashed in my mind again. What kind of trial? The keeper's hand rose higher. The ground beneath me began to shift, the stone floor splitting apart. Slowly, 3 paths formed in front of me, each leading into a dark tunnel. "You must walk one of these paths," the keeper said. "One holds truth, one holds death, and one holds the secret to ending the curse. Choose wisely. You have only one chance." I stared at the tunnels, my hands trembling. The book grew warm again, its pages fluttering as if urging me to decide. My heart pounded in my chest, fear clawing at me. How do I know which one to choose? I asked desperately. The keeper tilted its head. "You don't. That is the trial." For a moment, the room was silent except for the flickering of torches. Then I heard it. Faint whispers coming from the tunnels. Different voices calling my name. Some sounded gentle, others harsh. "Maggie, this way. Maggie, don't trust them. Maggie, come closer." My legs trembled as I stepped closer to the tunnels, the whispers growing louder. I looked back at the keeper, but it stood motionless, watching. No help. No guidance. I squeezed the book tighter, praying silently. Then, before I could change my mind, I chose the middle tunnel. The moment I stepped inside, the stone walls sealed shut behind me, cutting me off from the chamber. Darkness swallowed me whole. I walked forward cautiously, my fingers tracing the damp wall. The faint glow from the book guiding my steps. The whispers followed me, echoing from all sides, until finally, I entered a small circular room. At the center of the room stood a mirror, tall, cracked, its frame carved with the same strange symbols from the book. I froze. My reflection stared back at me, but it wasn't me. The woman in the mirror looked like me, but her eyes were black, her smile twisted and cruel. She held the book too, but hers glowed blood red instead of gold. Then my reflection spoke. Its voice was my own, but darker, heavier. "Why fight it, Maggie? You were chosen. Embrace it. Give me the book, and all of this will end." My hands shook. "You're not me." The reflection tilted its head, smirking. "Aren't I? Every chosen becomes 2. One survives, one is claimed. Only one of us leaves this place alive." And with that, the reflection stepped out of the mirror. The ground shook violently, the torches flaring as if feeding on our fear. I staggered back, clutching the book tightly, as the other me walked forward, its black eyes fixed on mine. "I am the true Maggie," it hissed. "And tonight you die." The chamber shook as my dark reflection stepped closer, its footsteps echoing like thunder against the stone walls. I staggered back, clutching the glowing book against my chest. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might burst. The reflection grinned, its eyes two endless pits of black. "You've always been weak, Maggie. You begged your husband for love, you clung to his family for approval, and now, you're clinging to that book like it can save you." Its words sliced through me, but I shook my head. "You don't know me. You're just a shadow." It laughed, my laugh but colder, emptier. "No, Maggie. I am the truth you've been too afraid to face. I am every moment you've doubted yourself. Every time you stayed silent when you should have screamed. I am the version of you who survives because she's not afraid to destroy." Before I could move, it lunged. The dark Maggie's hand shot forward, grabbing the book. The moment her fingers touched it, a violent surge of heat exploded between us. We were both thrown backward, crashing onto the stone floor. My body ached, but I refused to let go of the book. The reflection snarled, "It's mine." The chamber filled with a blinding light as the book's pages flipped open by themselves. Strange symbols burst into the air, circling both of us. My ears rang with whispers, voices of the women who had been sacrificed. "One must fall. One must rise. Only then will the curse be broken." I forced myself to my knees, panting. The reflection mirrored me, moving in perfect sync, like a twisted dance. If I raised my arm, she raised hers. If I stepped forward, she stepped forward too. It was like fighting myself. I tried to think there had to be a way to win. My eyes darted to the mirror behind her, the same one she had stepped out of. Its cracked surface still shimmered faintly. Maybe that was the key. I clutched the book tighter and whispered, "If you're really me, then you'll know what I'm about to do." The reflection smirked. "I already do." And then we both charged at each other. The collision was violent, our bodies slamming together with a force that shook the chamber. The book burned between our hands, its glow splitting into two colors, gold on my side, crimson on hers. Sparks flew, symbols clashing in the air. "Give up," the dark Maggie screamed, pushing me back toward the mirror. "You can't win against yourself." "No," I cried out, summoning every ounce of strength left in me. "I'm not fighting myself. I'm fighting the darkness that's tried to control me my whole life." With a final shove, I twisted the book, forcing the crimson glow to surge backward. My reflection let out a piercing scream as the energy wrapped around her, pulling her toward the cracked mirror. The glass trembled, cracks spreading wider as she was dragged into it. Her black eyes burned with fury as she reached out for me one last time. "This isn't over, Maggie. You can't escape me." And then, with a deafening shatter, the mirror swallowed her whole. The chamber went silent. The book dimmed, its glow softening back to gold. My body collapsed to the floor, my chest heaving, tears streaming down my face. For a moment I thought it was over. But then the torches flickered. The chamber rumbled again. I lifted my head, my stomach dropping in horror. From the shattered mirror, black smoke began to pour out, thicker and thicker, twisting into a massive shape. Horns, wings, burning eyes. It wasn't my reflection anymore. It was something much worse. The monster had returned, stronger, freer, no longer bound to the house or the forest. And this time it whispered my name. "Maggie." The chamber trembled as the smoke solidified into a monstrous form, larger and more terrifying than before. Its horns scraped the ceiling, its wings spread wide, casting shadows that swallowed the torches. The air grew hot and suffocating, each breath burning my lungs. Its molten eyes locked on me, and the sound of my name slithered from its mouth like poison. "Maggie!" My knees nearly gave out. The mirror had been a trap all along. By defeating my reflection, I had set this thing free. The book pulsed in my hands, its golden light flickering weakly, as if it too feared what had been unleashed. The monster stepped closer, its claws dragging across the stone floor, sending sparks flying. "You thought you could resist me. But you are mine. You always were." I staggered backward until my back hit the cold wall. My voice shook. No. I don't belong to you. The creature let out a booming laugh that shook dust from the ceiling. Every woman in Daniel's bloodline belonged to me. They tried to resist, just as you do now. And they all failed. One by one their souls burned. I thought of the women's faces in the forest, their whispers, their pleas for freedom. My chest tightened. They were all trapped because of this thing. The book grew hot again, almost unbearable to hold. Its pages fluttered wildly until one stopped, glowing brighter than the rest. I glanced down at the symbols etched across it. I couldn't read them, but somehow I understood. It was a spell. A weapon. The monster leaned closer, its burning breath washing over me. Give me the book, Maggie. Or I will rip it from your corpse. I clenched my jaw, my hands trembling but firm. No. If you want it, you'll have to take it from me. The creature roared, raising its clawed hand high. Flames burst from its body, filling the chamber with searing heat. I screamed, lifting the book just as its claw came crashing down. The symbols on the page ignited, releasing a burst of golden light so bright it blinded us both. The force knocked the monster backward, its roar shaking the stone walls. For a moment I felt hope, but then the light dimmed, flickering weakly. The book shuddered in my hands, and cracks spread across its cover. No. Iwisparat. Panigrising. The monster pushed itself up, laughing through its rage. Did you really think you could destroy me with their prayers? That book is dying, just like you. It lunged forward, faster than I could move. Its claw wrapped around me, lifting me off the ground. The heat seared my skin, the smell of smoke and sulfur choking me. I kicked and screamed, the book slipping in my sweaty hands. Your soul will burn brighter than all the rest. It growled, its fiery eyes boring into mine. Just as I thought it was over, a voice echoed through the chamber, hoarse, desperate, but familiar. Maggie! My eyes widened. It was Daniel. He stumbled through a doorway that hadn't been there before, his face pale, his hands clutching something wrapped in cloth. His eyes locked on me, then on the monster. No, he screamed. You can't have her. The monster froze, its grip on me tightening. Ah, the bloodline returns. Its voice dripped with hunger. How fitting. Daniel unwrapped the cloth, revealing a dagger. Its blade etched with the same strange symbols as the book. The moment it touched the air, the monster let out a furious roar, shaking the chamber. Daniel's eyes burned with determination. You want a soul? Take mine instead. The monster's claws tightened around my waist, heat searing into my skin. My lungs struggled for air as smoke filled the chamber. I could barely move, barely think, until Daniel's voice cut through the suffocating darkness. You want a soul? He shouted, his hand steady as he raised the dagger. Take mine instead. The monster's burning eyes shifted from me to him. For the first time it hesitated. Its laugh rolled through the chamber like thunder. Ah, brave little Daniel. You finally speak the words your ancestors were too cowardly to utter. But do you even know what sacrifice means? Daniel's knuckles whitened around the dagger's hilt. His voice cracked, but he didn't falter. It means ending this curse. It means saving her. His eyes darted to me, pleading, broken, desperate. My heart wrenched. Daniel, no. I cried, struggling in the monster's grip. That thing is lying. Don't do this. The monster's claws tightened, making me scream. Silence. It roared, flames bursting from its mouth. The chamber trembled as cracks spread across the ceiling. Daniel stepped closer, his face slick with sweat, his body trembling. But his eyes never left mine. Maggie, I can't let you suffer for what my family did. It should have been me from the beginning. Tears blurred my vision. Daniel, please, this isn't the way. The monster lowered me slightly, almost as if savoring my terror. Yes, offer yourself. Let me drink your soul. Let her watch as I claim you. Daniel raised the dagger higher, his breathing ragged. The blade glowed faintly, humming with an energy that made even the monster flinch. The chamber shook as my dark reflection stepped closer, its footsteps echoing like thunder against the stone walls. I staggered back, clutching the glowing book against my chest. My heart pounded so loudly I thought it might burst. The reflection grinned, its eyes two endless pits of black. You've always been weak, Maggie. You begged your husband for love, you clung to his family for approval, and now, you're clinging to that book like it can save you. Its words sliced through me, but I shook my head. You don't know me. You're just a shadow. It laughed, my laugh, but colder, emptier. No, Maggie. I am the truth you've been too afraid to face. I am every moment you've doubted yourself. Every time you stayed silent when you should have screamed. I am the version of you who survives because she's not afraid to destroy. Before I could move, it lunged. The dark Maggie's hand shot forward, grabbing the book. The moment her fingers touched it, a violent surge of heat exploded between us. We were both thrown backward, crashing onto the stone floor. My body ached, but I refused to let go of the book. The reflection snarled. It's mine. The chamber filled with a blinding light as the book's pages flipped open by themselves. Strange symbols burst into the air, circling both of us. My ears rang with whispers, voices of the women who had been sacrificed. One must fall. One must rise. Only then will the curse be broken. I forced myself to my knees, panting. The reflection mirrored me, moving in perfect sync, like a twisted dance. If I raised my arm, she raised hers. If I stepped forward, she stepped forward too. It was like fighting myself. I tried to think there had to be a way to win. My eyes darted to the mirror behind her, the same one she had stepped out of. Its cracked surface still shimmered faintly. Maybe that was the key. I clutched the book tighter and whispered, "If you're really me, then you'll know what I'm about to do." The reflection smirked. "I already do." And then we both charged at each other. The collision was violent, our bodies slamming together with a force that shook the chamber. The book burned between our hands, its glow splitting into two colors, gold on my side, crimson on hers. Sparks flew, symbols clashing in the air. "Give up," the dark Maggie screamed, pushing me back toward the mirror. "You can't win against yourself." "No," I cried out, summoning every ounce of strength left in me. "I'm not fighting myself. I'm fighting the darkness that's tried to control me my whole life." With a final shove, I twisted the book, forcing the crimson glow to surge backward. My reflection let out a piercing scream as the energy wrapped around her, pulling her toward the cracked mirror. The glass trembled, cracks spreading wider as she was dragged into it. Her black eyes burned with fury as she reached out for me one last time. "This isn't over, Maggie. You can't escape me." And then, with a deafening shatter, the mirror swallowed her whole. The chamber went silent. The book dimmed, its glow softening back to gold. My body collapsed to the floor, my chest heaving, tears streaming down my face. For a moment I thought it was over. But then the torches flickered. The chamber rumbled again. I lifted my head, my stomach dropping in horror. From the shattered mirror, black smoke began to pour out, thicker and thicker, twisting into a massive shape. Horns, wings, burning eyes. It wasn't my reflection anymore. It was something much worse. The monster had returned, stronger, freer, no longer bound to the house or the forest. And this time it whispered my name. "Maggie." The chamber trembled as the smoke solidified into a monstrous form, larger and more terrifying than before. Its horns scraped the ceiling, its wings spread wide, casting shadows that swallowed the torches. The air grew hot and suffocating, each breath burning my lungs. Its molten eyes locked on me, and the sound of my name slithered from its mouth like poison. "Maggie." My knees nearly gave out. The mirror had been a trap all along. By defeating my reflection, I had set this thing free. The book pulsed in my hands, its golden light flickering weakly, as if it too feared what had been unleashed. The monster stepped closer, its claws dragging across the stone floor, sending sparks flying. "You thought you could resist me, but you are mine. You always were." I staggered backward until my back hit the cold wall. My voice shook. "No, I don't belong to you." The creature let out a booming laugh that shook dust from the ceiling. "Every woman in Daniel's bloodline belonged to me. They tried to resist, just as you do now. And they all failed. One by one, their souls burned." I thought of the women's faces in the forest, their whispers, their pleas for freedom. My chest tightened. They were all trapped because of this thing. The book grew hot again, almost unbearable to hold. Its pages fluttered wildly until one stopped, glowing brighter than the rest. I glanced down at the symbols etched across it. I couldn't read them, but somehow I understood. It was a spell. A weapon. The monster leaned closer, its burning breath washing over me. Give me the book, Maggie, or I will rip it from your corpse. I clenched my jaw, my hands trembling but firm. No. If you want it, you'll have to take it from me. The creature roared, raising its clawed hand high. Flames burst from its body, filling the chamber with searing heat. I screamed, lifting the book just as its claw came crashing down. The symbols on the page ignited, releasing a burst of golden light so bright it blinded us both. The force knocked the monster backward, its roar shaking the stone walls. For a moment I felt hope. But then the light dimmed, flickering weakly. The book shuddered in my hands and cracks spread across its cover.
No, 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 y whispered, panic rising.
The monster pushed itself up, laughing through its rage. Did you really think you could destroy me with their prayers? That book is dying just like you. It lunged forward faster than I could move. Its claw wrapped around me, lifting me off the ground. The heat seared my skin, the smell of smoke and sulfur choking me. I kicked and screamed, the book slipping in my sweaty hands. Your soul will burn brighter than all the rest. It growled, its fiery eyes boring into mine. Just as I thought it was over, a voice echoed through the chamber, hoarse, desperate, but familiar. Maggie! My eyes widened. It was Daniel. He stumbled through a doorway that hadn't been there before, his face pale, his hands clutching something wrapped in cloth. His eyes locked on me, then on the monster. No, he screamed. You can't have her. The monster froze, its grip on me tightening. Ah, the bloodline returns. Its voice dripped with hunger. How fitting. Daniel unwrapped the cloth, revealing a dagger. Its blade etched with the same strange symbols as the book. The moment it touched the air, the monster let out a furious roar, shaking the chamber. Daniel's eyes burned with determination. You want a soul? Take mine instead. The monster's claws tightened around my waist, heat searing into my skin. My lungs struggled for air as smoke filled the chamber. I could barely move, barely think, until Daniel's voice cut through the suffocating darkness. You want a soul? He shouted, his hand steady as he raised the dagger. Take mine instead. The monster's burning eyes shifted from me to him. For the first time it hesitated. Its laugh rolled through the chamber like thunder. Ah, brave little Daniel. You finally speak the words your ancestors were too cowardly to utter. But do you even know what sacrifice means? Daniel's knuckles whitened around the dagger's hilt. His voice cracked, but he didn't falter. It means ending this curse. It means saving her. His eyes darted to me, pleading, broken, desperate. My heart wrenched. Daniel, no. I cried, struggling in the monster's grip. That thing is lying. Don't do this. The monster's claws tightened, making me scream. Silence. It roared, flames bursting from its mouth. The chamber trembled as cracks spread across the ceiling. Daniel stepped closer, his face slick with sweat, his body trembling. But his eyes never left mine. Maggie, I can't let you suffer for what my family did. It should have been me from the beginning. Tears blurred my vision. Daniel, please, this isn't the way. The monster lowered me slightly, almost as if savoring my terror. Yes, yes, offer yourself. Let me drink your soul. Let her watch as I claim you. Daniel raised the dagger higher, his breathing ragged. The blade glowed faintly, humming with an energy that made even the monster flinch. My pulse raced. That dagger wasn't ordinary. It was made for this. Do it, the monster bellowed, its voice shaking the chamber. Strike your heart and give me what is mine. Daniel's hand trembled, his chest heaving. He looked at me one last time. I love you, Maggie. I always have. Forgive me. No, I screamed, my voice echoing against the stone walls. Desperation surged through me, giving me strength I didn't know I had. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the chamber. Daniel's eyes searched mine, trembling, broken, but flickering with a tiny spark of hope. The monster's roar shattered that fragile moment. Fools! It bellowed, its fiery body swelling larger, wings spreading until they nearly touched the chamber walls. Do you think love will save you? Do you think you can break centuries of blood with pathetic defiance? Flames erupted around us, the ground splitting open to reveal molten rock beneath. The heat was unbearable, my skin burning, my lungs choking. Daniel's grip on the dagger tightened again. But this time, instead of pointing it at his chest, he turned and faced the monster. His voice was steady, fierce. No. Love won't save us. But sacrifice will. And not the kind you think. He lunged forward, pulling me with him. Together, we raised the dagger and the book, their glow fusing, gold from the book, silver from the blade. The light grew so intense it pierced through the monster's flames, forcing it to recoil with a deafening roar. The women's whispers filled the air again, stronger this time, their voices rising in unison. Break the chains. End the oath. Free us. The book and the dagger trembled violently, symbols shooting into the air, forming a glowing circle around the monster. Its body thrashed, claws slamming against the invisible barrier, its roar shaking the chamber. No. You cannot bind me. I am eternal. I felt power surging through my arms, stronger than fear, stronger than pain. For the first time, I believed. Daniel's hand tightened over mine, grounding me, steadying me. We can do this, he whispered hoarsely. Together. I nodded, tears burning my eyes. Together. We raised the book and dagger higher, the circle glowing brighter, symbols burning into the stone walls. The chamber shook, the monster's flames sputtering, its roar turning into a scream of rage. For one breathtaking moment, I thought we had it, thought we had won. But then the book cracked. A jagged line split across its cover, the glow sputtering like a dying flame. My stomach dropped. No, no, no. I whispered. The monster's laughter boomed, shaking the chamber. The book cannot hold me. The curse cannot end. You are mine, and your souls will burn. The dagger's glow faltered too, dimming in Daniel's hands. His face paled, his strength waning. The circle broke. With a roar so loud it felt like the world itself was ending, the monster lunged. Its claws slammed into the ground, knocking us both backward. The book flew from my grip, sliding across the chamber floor. I scrambled, reaching for it, but the monster's claw came down, pinning it beneath its weight. Flames erupted, swallowing the book whole. My scream ripped through the chamber. No, the book burned to ash before my eyes. The whispers of the women faded, their voices silenced. The chamber grew darker, colder, as the monster's laughter filled the void. Daniel pushed himself to his knees, the dagger still in his hand. His voice shook, but he forced the words out. If the book is gone, then there's only one way left. My heart dropped. Daniel, don't. But before I could stop him, he turned the dagger toward himself, pressing the blade against his chest. I'll end this, even if it kills me. And with a sharp, desperate cry, Daniel drove the dagger into his heart. Blood spilled as his body collapsed to the floor. The monster's roar shook the chamber, not with victory, but with fury. Because instead of falling lifeless, Daniel's body began to glow. The dagger pulsed inside him, sending waves of light through his veins, until his entire body burned like a star. The monster shrieked, staggering back, its flames flickering. I crawled toward Daniel, my hands shaking, my heart breaking. His eyes met mine, filled with pain but also peace. Maggie live. He whispered, his voice barely audible. And then his body erupted into blinding light. The chamber shook, the monster screamed, and the world dissolved into fire and shadow. The light from Daniel's body consumed everything. It was blinding, searing, pure. I shielded my face, but the heat still pressed into my skin. The monster's screams shook the chamber as if the walls themselves were crying. Then silence. When the light finally faded, the chamber was unrecognizable. The molten cracks in the floor had cooled to black stone. The torches were extinguished. The air, once thick with smoke and sulfur, was eerily still. I staggered to my knees, blinking through the darkness. My ears rang, my chest heaved, my body weak from the battle. And then I saw him. Daniel lay at the center of the chamber, the dagger still lodged in his chest. His body no longer glowed. His skin was pale, his eyes closed, his chest still. No, my voice broke as I crawled toward him. Daniel, no. I pressed my hands against his chest, shaking him, begging him to wake. Tears blurred my vision as I cried out, my heart shattering. You promised. You said we'd do this together. But he didn't answer. His body was cold. Lifeless. The weight of his sacrifice crushed me, leaving me hollow. For a moment I wanted to let go too. To sink into the darkness and join him. But then a sound. A whisper. At first, I thought it was in my head. But it grew louder, curling through the chamber like smoke. Maggie. My blood ran cold. I turned slowly and froze. The monster wasn't gone. It stood at the far end of the chamber, its body smaller, weaker, but its eyes still burning with rage. Its flames sputtered, its form cracked, but it was alive. Daniel's sacrifice hadn't destroyed it. It had only wounded it. The monster staggered, but its grin was cruel. You thought his soul could end me? Fool. His death only feeds me. Every sacrifice, every drop of blood strengthens the curse. No. I whispered, shaking my head in disbelief. It raised a claw, pointing directly at me. You are mine now, Maggie. There is no book, no weapon, no salvation. Only you, and me. I staggered back, my body trembling, my heart racing. My eyes darted to Daniel. The dagger still glowed faintly in his chest, pulsing like a dying heartbeat. My breath caught. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. I reached for the dagger, my fingers trembling as I wrapped them around the hilt. The moment I touched it, heat surged through me, burning but not consuming. Symbols flared across my skin, glowing like the ones from the book. The monster snarled, its body trembling with fury. No. That blade belongs to my oath. I yanked the dagger free from Daniel's chest. His body slumped, but the glow transferred into the blade, making it blaze brighter than before. I rose to my feet, my hand steady despite the tears streaming down my face. My grief twisted into rage, into determination. You took everything from me, I said, my voice low but steady. You cursed this family. You murdered those women. You stole Daniel. And now, I raised the dagger high. I'll end you myself. The monster roared, its flames surging as it lunged toward me, claws extended. I charged forward, dagger burning like a star in my hands. Our collision shook the chamber. The blade pierced its chest, and the monster let out a scream so loud it split the air. Flames erupted, shadows writhed, the ground cracked open beneath us. For a moment I thought I had done it. But then the dagger sank deeper and I realized too late. The monster wasn't dying. It was merging. The flames shot up my arms, the symbols burning into my skin, my body convulsing with pain. The monster's laughter filled my head as its fiery essence poured into me. You are mine, Maggie, it whispered inside my mind. If you destroy me, you destroy yourself. My scream tore through the chamber as the world dissolved into fire and shadow once more. The fire tore through me like molten chains, wrapping around my veins, burning into my bones. I screamed until my throat was raw, clawing at my skin as the monster's voice echoed inside my skull. Yes, yes, you are mine now. Your flesh, your soul, your heartbeat, all belong to me. My vision blurred. The chamber around me melted away into a storm of fire and shadows. I stumbled, falling to my knees, my hands gripping the dagger so tightly the hilt cut into my palms. I tried to fight, but every second the monster's essence sank deeper, feeding on my pain. My heartbeat thundered, and with each beat, I felt it taking more control. My hands twitched. My lips curled into a snarl that wasn't mine. I was losing. My body convulsed, my voice breaking into sobs. No, I won't let you. The monster's laugh echoed inside my chest. You already have. You killed Daniel. You killed them all. You have always been the curse, Maggie. The words sliced through me. I collapsed to the ground. My face pressed against the cold stone, tears streaming down. For a moment, I almost believed it. Almost surrendered. Then, I felt it. A hand. Warm, gentle, pressing against mine. I gasped, lifting my head. And there he was. Daniel. Not his broken body on the floor, but his spirit, glowing softly, his eyes clear, his face calm. He knelt beside me, his touch light but real enough to steady me. Don't listen to it, Maggie, he said, his voice strong yet tender. You're not the curse. You've never been the curse. My throat tightened. Daniel, but you. I'm gone, he said, cutting me gently. But not lost. Part of me stayed. For you. The monster roared inside me, its voice furious. Silence. You are dead. She is mine. Daniel leaned closer, his eyes locking on mine. Maggie, you can fight this. You don't need the book. You don't need me. You've always had the strength. You just never believed it. The fire surged through me again, burning brighter, trying to drown his words. My body shook violently, my nails digging into the stone floor. I can't, I gasped. Yes, you can, he said firmly. His hand cupped my cheek, warm despite the flame searing me from within. Fight for yourself. Fight for us. Fight for all of them. Behind him, the chamber filled with faint, ghostly figures, the women I had seen before. Their faces calm, their voices rising in unison, whispering words that wrapped around me like a shield. Break the chains. End the oath. Free us. The fire inside me faltered, the monster's grip loosening for just a moment. No, it bellowed, its voice shrill with rage. You are mine. You will burn with me forever. I gritted my teeth, forcing myself onto my knees, the dagger still clutched in my shaking hands. My eyes locked on Daniel's spirit. Stay with me, I whispered. Always, he said. With a scream that tore from the deepest part of me, I raised the dagger high and plunged it into my own chest. The chamber exploded with light. The fire inside me shrieked, the monster's voice dissolving into screams as the blade's symbols burned through my veins, purging its essence. My body convulsed, my vision white, my soul teetering between life and death. And then silence. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, the dagger sliding from my chest without a single drop of blood. My skin still glowed faintly with golden symbols, but the fire was gone. I lay trembling, tears streaming, staring at Daniel's fading spirit. You did it, he whispered, his voice soft now, fading with every word. You broke it. Don't go, I cried, reaching for him desperately. Please don't leave me. He smiled gently. I never will. Not really. And then he was gone. The women's spirits faded too, their voices carrying one last blessing before silence returned to the chamber. Thank you, Maggie. We are free. The torches went out. The chamber dissolved into shadow. And I was left alone. Or so I thought. Because just before the darkness swallowed me whole, a voice whispered in my ear, low, mocking, and far too familiar. Did you really think curses die so easily? Darkness. That was all I saw after the whisper. I felt like I was floating in nothing, my body weightless, my soul dangling between two worlds. My chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, and I couldn't tell if I was alive or just trapped in something worse. Slowly light began to seep through the cracks. Not golden light, not warm, but a pale ghostly glow. I forced my eyes open and realized I was no longer in the chamber. I was back in my own bedroom. The dagger lay beside me on the sheets, its carvings still glowing faintly. My heart thundered as I sat up, looking around in confusion. The air smelled normal, no ash, no sulfur. Outside, I could hear birds chirping faintly, like morning had broken. For a moment, I allowed myself to breathe. Was it truly over? I stumbled toward the mirror. My reflection stared back, my face pale, my hair tangled, but my eyes were clear. No fire. No shadows. No monster. I touched my chest where the dagger had pierced me, expecting a wound. But there was nothing. Only smooth skin. A shaky laugh escaped my lips. Maybe Daniel had been right. Maybe I had broken the curse. But just as relief started to sink in, I noticed something. The mirror moved. My reflection smiled before I did. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Slowly, my reflection raised its hand, curling its fingers in a mocking wave, even though my real hand stayed frozen at my side. Then its lips parted, and in that low, mocking voice, it whispered the same words I had heard before in the chamber. Did you really think curses die so easily? The glass cracked. I stumbled back, my scream caught in my throat, as the reflection's eyes blazed with fire. And then blackness swallowed the room. I don't know if I ever woke up after that. Maybe I'm still trapped. Maybe the curse never left me. Maybe it never can. And that, my dear viewers, is the end of my story. Broken heart, my name is Maggie. I'm from South Carolina, and I am 72 years old. If you followed me from the beginning until now, thank you. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notifications button so you never miss any of my upcoming stories. Tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this from? I would love to know. Until next time, stay safe and beware of the shadows that live in silence.